Hey students, how are you? I'm going to talk about how to build your vocabulary. That's one of the most popular questions that I have with students is how can I improve my vocabulary when I'm doing creative writing, academic writing? Now, this is going to be a short program to make you really work hard to improve your vocabulary. There is no magic trick where I just teach you words and they soak in your brain, and you just automatically have that vocabulary retention. You're going to have to work at it, but I'm going to teach you how to do that. Give you some tricks. The first thing that we're going to talk about, though, is a little bit of what type of vocabulary do you need to improve. Excuse me. Conversational vocabulary, most popular slang, the vocabulary for conversations for a region you're traveling to. What is it that you're trying to improve with that? Look it up, Google some things, study the regions that you're talking about. For example, I'm from the South. We say y'all. A lot of people um, misspell y'all when they get to write it. It's Y apostrophe ALL for you all. So things like that. Do you know if you're writing conversation, if you're doing creative writing, or you're speaking with somebody, the vocabulary that's particular to the age that you're talking about or writing about, the group, the region? Second is written vocabulary. Academic writing, especially, takes a more formal language. If you're turning in an answer to an essay question, writing a formal paper, you always want to use a formal academic writing. So that takes a different level of vocabulary. There are some discipline specific words. If you're applying for engineering school, veterinary school, you're writing about pharmaceutical fields or any particular thing, there are discipline specific words that you will need to learn to incorporate either into your conversation or your written work. We're also going to talk about some Greek and Latin roots that'll help you build your vocabulary because you're learning parts of the word, and it helps you then be able to guess a little bit about, at least in general, what the definition of the word may be. So, those are the four areas that I want you to think about when you're building your vocabulary. So we're going to see if this will, for some reason or another, when I get on this, it doesn't ever want to let me switch. The best way to do this is to build your vocabulary workbook. And you can use those labels that we just talked about. And it's depending if you're fine with conversation, you're not writing about or to a specific person in an area different from your age group, your peer group, your work group, then you may not need a conversational section. But if you want to um, have a section of the notebook that's Greek and Latin roots or formal vocabulary or discipline specific, you can decide how you want to organize this workbook. And it can be online. Hey, I'm up with the times here. You can do it online, or you can get a good old spiral notebook or a loose leaf binder and organize this however you want to do it. So if you use Google Docs, it's really easy to build this in Google Docs, or just start a file online, a Word doc or something that you want to do to organize it. So again, there's different categories. You can decide how you want to structure your vocabulary workbook. One of the things that I really emphasize, though, is that roots of the words can really help you. And you say, why? Um, because, especially the first one, Latin is considered a dead language. There are no groups of people that speak Latin currently. But our vocabulary comes from a lot of Latin roots or prefixes and suffixes. Now, Greek is still a living language. It's still spoken and written today. You can go to Greece. But the ancient Greek language is actually centuries older than Latin. But again, we still use from ancient Greek, we still use a lot of the root words, the prefixes and suffixes. So you may be saying, why do I need to memorize this? Well, it's almost impossible to memorize unless you're just a genius in this area, every word in the dictionary. So what you need to do is sometimes then be able to look at the root or the prefix and the suffix and decide for yourself what that word means, even if you have never seen that word before. You can usually get pretty close if you've learned prefixes, suffixes, and roots. So you may just be reading a book or a word in an essay test and or in a class notes, and you have to know what this word means, or at least act like you know what this word means, and you have no idea, you've never seen it before. Take it apart, look at the prefixes, suffixes, and roots on that. For example, um, parts of words that have meaning can help us define the whole word. For Greek, for hydro, and Latin, aqua, both mean water. So take a minute, find three words that we use that grow from these roots. Like, I want you to do this. Again, I'm making you work in this. So I'm gonna put you to a challenge. Your first challenge in this. And along this video, this is a self-paced course. So during this course, anytime that you need to stop this and work and come back to it, I'm just going to keep talking, but you can pause this, take the challenge, define the vocabulary words, whatever the assignment is, and come back to it. You can do that as many times as you want to. Okay, here are some good Greek roots to know. I gave you an example of up here what your workbook could look like for your building of your vocabulary. And again, organize this however you want to. You can organize it by dates that you study the words, by topics, put it in alphabetical order, especially if you're doing it online. All of our minds work differently as far as how we need to study. So you're going to have to decide if you want it alphabetical order, one page for A, one page for B, one page for C words, or by topic. I can't tell you exactly how to start this vocabulary building workbook. But here are some things that are important to put in it. Greek roots to know. Anthrop means human. This is an example of what it would look like as you're building it. Some words that stem from that: anthropology, philanthropy, anthropic. Now, you need to go and define those words, especially if you don't know the exact meaning. And don't assume that you know the meaning of some words, because a lot of times we think we do, but we've heard them out of context or in the wrong context, and we actually have the wrong definition hooked with that word. So look up these words, but put the roots in there as one of your vocabulary words. Same thing with auto. It means self. Autobiography. I wrote about myself by myself. Autograph, automatic. Photo. You think, well, of course I know photo, but I'm not talking about photo that means like a picture. I'm talking about the root light, photograph, photogenic, photon, photosynthesis. That all relates to the root light. Same thing with tele, far or far off. Telegraph, telescope, telephone. Now, here's some more that I want you to define for yourself. So, again, you're going to have to pause this or screenshot it, whatever you want to do, but get these in your vocabulary building workbook. Again, whether it's online or you're physically writing this. I will tell you a trick, though. Most people learn things a little bit better if they have to handwrite it. It's a little bit of a slower process. And that connection between the movements of your hand and the physically writing it on paper, the brain connections, it's just it's a little bit easier to then have it stick with you when you have written it. Here's some other roots that I want you to define, just as I did above, and write 3 or 4 words that come from those: phobia, morph, hydro, therm, geo, derm, cron, and bio. So make sure that you get the root defined, and then define at least 3 words that have that root. You're going to have to search for it. And you say, well, I may never use these words, but you may. And building vocabulary doesn't mean that you're going to use it constantly. I have written for a lot of years and have rarely had to write in anything that I do because I'm not a scientist. I don't write about science a lot. I don't use the word photosynthesis. But I also teach junior kindergarten, and there are times where I like to toss out a word for them. We're talking about spring and flowers and the growing process, and I toss out photosynthesis. It's, it's seed building. These kids don't know what it means, but I'm dropping a seed for them for later life, for later academic studies. But again, sometimes I'm at a lecture or I'm reading a novel, reading about something, and somebody starts talking about one of the characters, or the person giving the lecture starts talking about photosynthesis. I have a good idea of what it means because I have studied the roots and I have once defined this word. So building vocabulary doesn't mean you're only building vocabulary of words that you're going to constantly be using. It's just a lifelong learning process to put that knowledge there and have it for when you need it, because you just never know when words are going to pop up. Here are some prefixes that I want you to do the same thing with. Define these, define the prefix, and then put several words that go with these: anti, hypo, hyper, para, and poly. And then again, take 3 or 4 words and actually define those words. Don't assume that you know the exact meaning of the word. Just because you have used it a certain way or heard people use it a certain way doesn't mean that that's correct. A lot of times, incorrect meanings get added to words because somebody uses it incorrectly in a popular article. They get spread around on the internet. People pick up on that incorrect definition and then reuse it themselves, use their words in the word in the wrong context. And it spreads that way and it sticks with us. And we think we know it because somebody said it, somebody did it that way. Here's another example of um, a word that get a root: fair, to bring, or quarry. Here are some words that I want you to write the definition of. Put it in your vocabulary building workbook, because go back over that every once in a while. Read it just for fun. Pick 5 words and use them in a sentence every so often. Aquifer, conifer, fairy, inference, vociferous, confer. These are some good words to have, as you're getting to where you're writing more academic papers. Some of you may be headed to college and going to have quite a challenge there in writing across all different disciplines, because you're going to start out with some general uh, freshman classes. So you'll be taking history, sociology, psychology, English classes, writing essays. These are some good words to have. Look at this word, these words, I should say. On this slide, we're going to focus on words that are frequently used incorrectly when speaking or writing. Add a definition for each word, and then write at least one sentence using that word correctly. Have someone check your work, because if you're using it incorrectly, it's not going to help you if you put it in a sentence and use it incorrectly. And I know the first one, you say insect. Of course, I know what an insect is. Insect, we often all use a little bit incorrectly. We just call anything that is a critter crawling or flying around us an insect. But we talked about those discipline specific words. Insect has a very specific meaning if you're actually talking about living creatures. Not everything that we call an insect is an insect. There are different vocabulary words that go with different living creatures, and a lot of us just lump them all together into one meaning. So I want you to correctly define insect. Now, also remember that I am talking about the formal academic use of the word. Conversationally, if you are writing creative writing and you have dialogue in that, it is then okay to use the more common usage of a word. Somebody says, what's that insect or what's that bug crawling around? It doesn't matter if that's the correct definition or not, because people then know what you're talking about. There's something flying or crawling that they don't want near them. But again, I want you to use the discipline specific, the scientific definition of insect and see if you knew that already. A lot of these, again, I see used. I do manuscript consultations, I'm a proofreader. I see these words used incorrectly a lot. And people then, when I change it or suggest that they change it, I hear, but I've seen it used like that before. I've seen a lot of things done wrong. That doesn't make it right just because somebody did it incorrectly. So, effect and affect, bemused, infamous, redundant, advise and advice, compliment and compliment, and aisle and aisle. So these are just some to make you think. And again, to make sure that you don't have the incorrect definition. And I'll tell you a funny story that a lot of us think about what you do if you have something in the freezer, some vegetables, let's say, or some meat in the freezer, and you're going to take it out. And so you can get it ready to cook. You're going to put it in the refrigerator. I hear a lot of people say they're going to unthaw it. I can't tell you, and I've seen that in writing. People say, they'll have a character say, unthaw that for me. Now think about that, because unthaw means to freeze it. If you're taking it out of the freezer, you're going to thaw it. You're going to let it get unfrozen. But we tend to put the word un in front of it. And a lot of people say that they're going to unthaw their food. I hear that a lot. I don't know if it's regional or if it's specific to a particular age group, but I hear it a lot and I see it written in books from time to time. So that's just a funny example of something that we all think is correct and it's not. Okay, on this slide, we're going to work with one of the Greek roots, log or ology, which is a word or a study of, or to speak, or to study. Each of these words, I want you to write a definition and then use each word in a sentence. And again, have somebody check your work and actually keep these. I really hope you're putting all of these in some type of format that you can then review them, pull them out every once in a while, use them in a sentence, incorporate these words into a paper. But these all use that Greek root, and it's ecology, pathology, cardiology, audiology, catalog, chronology, eulogy, monologue, sociology, meteorology, seismology, and physiology. Okay, Let's look at another section that we're going to start. The following words are examples of vocabulary that you'll need to know for literature exams or maybe for some types of testing, depending on where you are in school, ACT, AP exams, etc. I'm going to, at first, I'm defining these words and giving examples. But you need to make sure that you review these, add these. Don't just say, oh, well, you told me the definition. I just did this to kind of get you started and get you thinking about these. You can also have somebody quiz you on these every once in a while. Think about this alliteration. It's the repetition of the same initial consonants of words or of stressed syllables in a sequence of neighboring words. You're like, what? Words side by side, words in a sentence that are close together, they have the same consonant sounds. It's to draw attention to a part of the writing through the sounds. The repetition of certain sounds emphasizes the words in the passage and emphasizes the pattern, almost creates a musical effect for the reader. These are just, I know, Best Buy, these are just examples of product names that use them. American Airlines, Best Buy, Coca-Cola, especially Coca-Cola. Listen to all those. It doesn't matter whether you like Coca-Cola or not. I'm not trying to push these products. I'm just talking about alliteration. Think of all those C sounds in Coca-Cola. It has a beat to it when you say it. It makes it easier to remember Coca-Cola. So if you put these in a sentence and have other C sounds around them, it really stands out. So you can find it. Poems use a lot of alliteration. A lot of authors, if they're really talking on a deep subject, might have 2 or 3 lines that have a lot of alliteration in it to really make a point. Allusion. It's an indirect or passing reference to an event, person, place, or artistic work. So, an author or a speaker is making an allusion to something that they assume the audience can relate to. It's to help you connect one idea to another. It's, that's why teachers say read the classics, because classic literature often is referred to in even modern literature. And here's an example. And this is whether you're religious or not trying to push a religious idea here. But Garden of Eden is often referred to. An allusion is this place is a Garden of Eden. Now, literally, they're not saying that this is a biblical place from the book of Genesis in the Christian Bible. But the writer's intending to convey the meaning that the setting is like a paradise. It's almost perfect. It's beautiful. It feels good. It feels safe. It's a Garden of Eden. And all of those pictures that come with it, very unspoiled beauty. So it's not that when they use it's not necessarily intended to have a religious connotation always, but the illusion is that it's an unspoiled garden, almost perfect. Here are some other examples. Achilles heel. If you don't know why we say somebody that's his Achilles heel, look that up. It's a catch 22 or down the rabbit hole. He went down the rabbit hole. That's an allusion to a literary work. I'm going to challenge you to see if you can figure that out. All 3 of those. It's not saying that somebody really literally went down any type of hole. It's an allusion to a literary work, and to connect you to it and to give you an image of what that reader is trying to say. So it's just referring back to another character or another time or another place. Analogy, comparing two people, things, places, or instances to explain an idea that might be complex, and you're trying to make it a little bit easier for me to understand. You're trying to clarify something. For example, if I'm talking about a situation and some kind of mechanical engineering that something broke down and it made a horrible sound and it's a machine I've never been around, and you're trying to describe the sound to me, you can say, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's not literally nails on a chalkboard, but you're trying to let me know that it is something that's that annoying that makes your skin crawl a little bit when you hear it. It makes everybody in the room stop and say, "Ooh, what was that?" So you're making an analogy to something that somebody might can relate to, even if what you're talking about is something they haven't experienced before. Hyperbole, an intentionally exaggerated statement or claim, not meant to be taken literally, but creating a desired, sometimes humorous effect to place emphasis. So you're exaggerating. It's a figurative language device. It's for emphasis. And a lot of times it's humorous if you really stop and think about it. It's an overstatement. For example, I'm dying to see that movie. That's a hyperbole. I'm not literally dying to see the movie. It's not something I'm risking my life to do. It's just something we say, oh, I'm dying to do that. Somebody talks about a vacation. Oh, I'm dying to go there. I don't know why we say that, but a lot of people do say that. And another example is, I've told you 1,000 times today. I haven't told you anything 1,000 times today. Nobody says anything 1,000 times a day, but we exaggerate it. I tell my students that sometimes. Uh, we have snack time and they have to get their own napkins. And I have a few students who every time they sit down without a napkin, and then they spill something or they make a mess and they don't have a napkin. And I will say, I've told you 1,000 times to get a napkin. I have not told them 1,000 times. It's an exaggeration to just make the point. I've told you this over and over again. A talkative person. He started talking the day he was born and hasn't stopped since then. Well, that's not true. Nobody starts talking the minute that they're born, but that's an exaggeration to let you know that that's a very talkative person. Personification. You're attributing something of a personal or human characteristic to an object or an animal that cannot actually do what you're saying. We do it to strengthen the imagery. A lot of poets use this, a lot of creative writers use this to really stress the importance or give you an image of something to help you feel it more than just literally just putting the words. The wind blew. Here's an example: the wind whispers. Wind cannot whisper. There can be a soft wind, but whispering is something that humans do. But we'll say the wind whispered my name. Um, the book spoke to me. Well, the book didn't literally speak to you. The words could be meaningful, but the book itself cannot speak to you. Um, the bear knew my name. If am hiking in the wild and I see a bear and we make eye contact, which I hope never happens ever, but I do hike and I have heard one in the distance and turned around and gotten away very quickly. But people will say it's like the bear knew their name. They made eye contact and they felt like that bear was speaking directly to them. That can't happen, but that's personification. Whatever you mean by tone, it's the author's attitude toward the subject being written about. The tone of the work is through style, word choice, other literary devices like what we're talking about: alliteration, allusion, hyperbole. It's how the author's perspective shapes the reader's understanding of the ideas or the people in the literary work. The tone can be humorous, serious, sarcastic, optimistic, pessimistic, joyous, celebratory, judgmental, all kinds of emotions. And the tone can be determined by word choice or how they structure the sentences or the dialogue or the imagery. For example, somebody with a theme in a book is marriage. How do you know what that author is trying to convey about marriage? Because there's thousands of works of literature that have the theme of marriage or family or brother sister relationships. How do you know what the author feels about that or the natural world? Do they think the human world is more important than the natural world, or the natural world should be protected over the human world? You can look at their tone and that tells you. They think the natural world is overrated, that we ought to just, there's nothing wrong with bulldozing everything down and building what we need as humans. And there are other writers that talk about their walk in the woods and how it changed their life forever and it brought them peace. And they talk about the beauty of it. You can tell that they have a respect for the natural world. Every author has a different perspective on family, on marriage, on relationships, on friendships. You don't know what they're implying, what they want you to take from that until you decide what their tone is. Okay, here's some other grammatical or literary words that you really need to define. Um, and one of them is misspelled. Look at that. Simile. See, I'm a proofreader and I misspell some of my own words. This word down here is supposed to be simile with an SIM in there. But antithesis, consonants, diction, ellipsis, ethos, imagery, irony, oxymoron, pathos, syntax. My misspelled word, simile, it should be SIM, metaphor, and idiom. These are some key words that you know, especially again, if you're going to take the AP English test. These are good words for the ACT, for any freshman English classes or high school English classes that you have coming up. Here's how you spell simile correctly. It's a figure of speech comparing two things to each other. I define this for you, even though I put that on your list, because a lot of people misunderstand this. Similes use the word like or as to make the comparison. Quiet as a mouse, strong as an ox, brave as a lion, fought like cats and dogs. It's to give you an image of, and you tell your students, my students, be quiet as a mouse. That means, we're practicing right now for our spring musical, and I'm trying to get them to be quiet backstage. And I'm like, be quiet as a mouse. I'm trying to give them an image of this little bitty mouse, and that's how quiet I want them to be. Using similes, fill in these blanks. The book is like a. Now, everybody's going to have a different opinion because it's depending on whether you like it or not. For example, my vacation was like a dream come true, or my vacation was like a nightmare, depending on what kind of vacation you had. So you fill in these words. You can put in anything that you want, but you're doing it to give somebody an image of what something was like. It's a comparison using a simile, using like or as. Here's one that I want you to write a paragraph with the simile as your opening sentence. Writing is like building a house. Now finish a paragraph, write at least 5 more sentences of what that means. How is writing like building a house? Think of that image, and you're the teacher, you're trying to teach somebody how to start writing a paragraph, or how to start writing an essay. Writing is like building a house. Write at least 5 more sentences. I want you to pause it And I want you to do that. I want you to let somebody check your work or see if it makes sense. Now, here's the difference with a metaphor. It's a comparison. When you're trying to add a metaphor to your writing, think of the most important quality of the thing you want to describe. And then what else has that quality? You're going to brainstorm a list. Metaphors can help us understand something more clearly. A metaphor can be one part of a poem or a sentence in a story or an essay, or it can extend throughout the entire paragraph. If I say, I'm going to get back just a second. If I say, a metaphor is not going to have like or as, okay? You're just saying that something is something. He is a walking dictionary. Now, that tells you that what? What do you think of? If I say, he's a walking dictionary, or she's a walking dictionary, or they are a walking dictionary, what am I talking about on that person? There could be a lot of things about that person, but I'm thinking of just one quality, and that is that they have a huge vocabulary. They use it well, they know the definitions, they know a lot of different words, and they know how to spell them. That's the image that comes up when I say that. That's a metaphor. It uses just is. It doesn't say they are like a dictionary. That's a simile. I'm just saying they are. He is. Here's the first one. My city is a kaleidoscope. Now, literally, my city is a city. It's not a kaleidoscope, but I'm giving you a metaphor here. And then I go on. You can see something different depending on which way you look. We have many different types of activities in my city. We have colorful fairs and festivals. We have museums and gardens that people can tour. So, my first sentence is my city is a kaleidoscope. That is a metaphor because I do not live in a kaleidoscope, obviously. But it gives somebody that image, and then I fill out with what I mean with it. So, take time. I know I'm speaking through this, but this is meant for you to pause, read, reflect on, and do your own work. Here's a place where I want you to do some writing with this. I want you to take these sentences, pick a couple, pick all of them, depending on how much writing exercises you want. And write a paragraph, just like what I did, where I started with my city is a kaleidoscope. Start with one of these. Life is a maze. School is a journey into space. Friendships are trees in our lives. These are some metaphors I ask people to write to put on this. The city is TikTok live. My mind is a blank slate. Tent camping is an adventure through patience. Homework is, and you can put whatever you want to put there. But see if you can write a paragraph like what I did, where you take this and then write the words after it to say what you mean for that. It's a good writing exercise to use a metaphor. And then once you do it, it helps you understand the meaning of the word metaphor. Okay, here's another way that you can build your own vocabulary. Ask somebody to pick 5 words and give you 1 correct answer and 3 incorrect answers. And you have to do like your own mini quiz. Make quizzes for each other. If you're homeschooling and you're in a group, pick different words every week and quiz each other to see who knows the answer. If you're just building on your own, you're in a traditional school and you're just trying to increase your vocabulary, here's just a fun way to do it. Just have a family member, have a friend, make some study cards, find it online. There's vocabulary quizzes online. Here's an example of a word I think that's good to know. Blatant. I'm going to let you just read this. What's the correct answer? Take time, pause, A, B, C, or D. Let's see if you get it. The answer is C. Completely obvious. And then here's some sentences that I want you to take time to read. Just pause it, read them. This is how you build your vocabulary. This is the kind of work that you're going to have to do to build it. Here's another nonchalant. Pause, A, B, C, or D. Let's see if you got it right. Unpause it whenever you're ready. B, not showing excitement or anxiety. Coolly confident, unflustered, unworried. The first contestant in the geography was nervous and worried, but the second student was completely nonchalant. That means they were just very cool, acting like it wasn't bothering them at all. Here's some more I want you to go through. Astute. Pause it. See if you can guess the answer. Unpause it when you're ready. See if you got it right. Here's another one, reprimand. Pause it, read through these. Unpause it when you're ready. See if you got it right. Conspicuous. Do the same thing. Unpause it when you're ready. See if you got it right. Okay, here's some vocabulary that's good to know if you don't know this already. Sentence types. Exclamatory, declarative, interrogative, and imperative. Put these in your vocabulary journal, notebook, whatever it is, uh, online journal, whatever you're doing to build your vocabulary. Read through these. Exclamatory shows strong feelings, ends with an exclamation mark. Declarative makes a statement and ends with a period. Interrogative asks a question and ends with a question mark. Imperative tells someone to do something and can end with either a period or an exclamation mark. Here's another vocabulary review. Clause and phrase. Again, I'm going through this quickly, so pause it as you need to, okay? Clause is a group of words that has both a subject and a verb. Clauses can express a complete thought, an independent clause, or expresses only part of a thought, a dependent clause. I built a boat. That's an independent clause. I is the subject, built is the verb. We have that in the next one, but it adds one more word. So it's a dependent clause. It has a subject and a verb, but it has the word when. If I stop there, I don't know anything about it. So it's depending on what comes after the comma. It's dependent. When I built a boat, something has to come after that. I was only 9. When I built a boat, I was with my grandmother. A phrase is a group of words that stand together, but they don't have a subject and a verb. And they cannot stand alone. They just stand together. In the morning, before school, with butter and sugar, in 1998, before school. So that's a words that go together. If you separate them, they're not going to make much sense. They won't have the same meaning as this, but they need other words to go with them. In the morning, what? Before school, what? What happened before school? What do you do with butter and sugar? So, got to the end of that. I hope this helped. This is not meant to give you every vocabulary word that you need to know to get through high school. This is showing you how to build a vocabulary journal, a vocabulary list that can be ongoing. Be a lifelong learner. When you're reading a novel, reading a book for your literature class, add the words in that novel that you don't know. Well, even as an adult, there are times where I'm reading something, I'm like, what does that word mean? It's just a word I've not used a lot, and I'm not sure if I know the specific meaning. Put it in your vocabulary book and that you have created your vocabulary notebook and refer back to it every once in a while. Just pull out some words and make sentences with them. See if you still remember what they are. That is the best way to increase your vocabulary if you want to be a better writer and a better student. So I've taught you how to do some, make lists. Those lists of prefixes and suffixes are just the beginning. There are hundreds more that you can do. Same with the Greek and Latin roots. I don't even go into Latin ones. Pull out some of those and put them in there. The literature words are just the beginning of literature words you'll need to know if you're going to take an honors or an AP course. So pull out words like that when you come to literary terms. Build that vocabulary. You can do it. It's a lot of hard work. It's memorizing, it's putting them in sentences, it's rereading the definition, it's writing or typing the definition. But you can do it. This is a good way to get you through high school is to start that vocabulary notebook. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives you some places to start, some new words, some new roots that you can do. Grow with it, have fun. I'm a writer. I love to use vocabulary in ways that really communicate well to the reader, use metaphors and similes. Admit when you make a mistake. I misspelled simile on here. I'm going to go fix it on my slide before anybody else sees this. That'll drive me crazy. But be a lifelong learner. And I hope things go well.